Thank you very much for joining our presentation. Hiroshima, 0 hour, August 6, 1945. 62 years ago today at 12 o'clock, Japanese Emperor Hirohito accepted the Potsdam Declaration of Unconditional Surrender, and World War II ended. Many people died and or were injured. Many people suffered from the loss of loved ones or their livelihood, and many tears were shed. There are myriads of reasons why the war was finally over, but one of the major incidents that we know that accelerated this decision was the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Today, we have invited two individuals who suffered as a result of this devastation. Mrs. Katsueishi was a young girl living in Hiroshima that day. She had witnessed the horrific act. But she has survived the bombing and is now a very healthy, fun-loving grandmother of 3. And she decided to share her experience to many people and now visiting many schools around this area to give talks. She was featured in the Newsweek and more recently in the LA Times. The copies of these articles are available for you. And Mr. Brett Austin lost his father, a Navy officer, lieutenant senior grade. He was one of the first Americans to land at Hiroshima after the bombing. He took many photographs, and after his death in 1978, Brett donated those photographs to Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum. And these photographs have become one of the featured exhibits there at the museum. So let me introduce Miss Katsueishi.
Please call Kaz Grandma. Not the Mrs. Sueishi. I'm your mama. I'm your grandma. And also, I have to apologize with my limited English, which I do speak very, very poquito English. Even though I was born in United States, 100% made in USA who do not speak English well. The reason why that my father came to this country early 1920 as a businessman. Then about 4 years later, he decided to go back to Japan, and then my mother became pregnant. And they want to have a child. And so they wait until go back to Japan for a little over 1 year. My father had a business, small business in Pasadena. He already closed the business and just retirement, waiting for the baby comes. That was me. Month before I was born, my mother went to Huntington Hospital. Those days, the Japanese people they call midwife. They used the midwife, but my mother wanna have a child, so over 1 month ahead, went to the hospital, who do not understand any English, but I was born in 1927, January 26. I'm only 80 years young woman now. But same year, parents took me back to Japan. They raised me in the city of the Hiroshima. They used to have a property, everything. My father was 40 years old. He quit the job. His full-time job was babysitter. It's for me. He did it. He used to talk all about America. America is the biggest rich country. And he said people are very generous. And people work hard to survive themselves. That's how my father all the time talk about America. Such a generous people, nice people. When I came back this country, start talking to the people, many American people. "Cause mama, you must hate it, America, because the other dropped the bomb and hurt so many people, including our whole family." I said, if I hate it, why am I here? Honestly, my parents never taught to hate the people. They always said to love the people. That's my family. Go back to August 6, 1945. Those days, I was a young teenage girl, 18 years old. Every single day, B-29, that's the American airplane, used to visit the city of the Hiroshima. B-29, it was the most beautiful airplane. I used to give the nickname, I cannot talk too loud in here, Angel. Because 29 was a beautiful silver color angel. Never dropped the bomb, never hurt the people. Every single day, beautiful blue sky, and come in and just like a dancing. And they left. Even though that during the war, they never dropped the bomb. Why you have to hate it? So all the people, B-29 are here, everybody opened the window and look in the B-29. I was outside and then looked at the B-29, and I saw my neighborhood girlfriend. Only different that day, I saw the white spot on the blue sky. So I told my friend Asa-chan, I wonder what is that? And she said, what are you talking? Look at that, look at that. And I pointed toward the east side. I told like this, look at that white spot. I didn't know that was the bomb. Then, all of a sudden, very extremely powerful flash. I know I did this much. I used 4 fingers, cover the eye, cover the ear. This position, save on the ground. That's how we used to training to self-protection. I know I did that much. I jumped across street house right by the front entrance. At least that much I remember. After that, I was unconscious. It's not too long. Then I realized I tried to move, and I couldn't move. The across street house, up the ceiling, everything fell down on top of me. At that time, I broke my back, but I never feel pain, anything. That's I still don't understand why I never feel pain. Somehow I tried to move, escaped, went back to original place, middle of the street. Moment ago was a beautiful blue sky. I did see angel. There was a heaven. Then 1 second later, it changed to hell. The color, blue sky color, that become grayish color. Then third, red color. Red is blood and fire. Fourth, final is black. That's building, tree, human being, they become just like a charcoal. That's 1 second. My father came back from backside the yard. Yarareta, which means I'm hurt. My neighborhood also. First word, what's going on? Nobody doesn't know what happened because 1 second. We thought individual small bomb, each house, that's what we thought. Quite a few people, when I start talking to the American people, Kaz Mama, you must saw the mushroom cloud. So I say, no, I didn't see mushroom cloud. I thought you say you are hibakusha. Hibakusha means maybe everybody might know that hibakusha is atomic bomb survivor. Please memorize hibakusha. The reason why I want this word for international word like a tsunami, because I want hibakusha. I'm the one is the last person to call hibakusha, not to anybody. Mama-san, you are hibakusha. How come you didn't see the mushroom cloud? I say, because I was in the mushroom cloud. That's why grayish color. Right bottom, I was there. If you stay a little far away, then you could see all the shape. But if you're close, you cannot see. And that was me. My father became 3rd-degree burn. I know he really suffered. But he never complained. He never said anything about Yankee or American. How dare, I hate you. Never say that. When 62 years ago today, war is end. We didn't know because no radio, no newspaper, nothing. Gossiping started. Oh, you better watch out, watch out. Nobody didn't believe war was end. But gradually, we found out war is end. Only my father said, thank you heaven, no more victim anymore. Thank you. That's all he said. I become very sick. They call radiation sick. But we didn't know. No hospital, nothing. But I did find the real peace just before the bomb drop, after the bomb drop. Those days in Japan was one of the worst period. They don't have anything. No food, no clothes, nothing. You mean the weapon, anything, nothing. But after the war, country people, the friend, they heard something wrong about the city of the Hiroshima. People start coming to find out, are we okay or not? Then they saw that our house completely destroyed and whole family is lying down on the ground. They rushed to go back home. They didn't have too much food or anything, but they tried to share. They just like a Christian, one piece of the bread, share the people. Same thing. Share the blanket, share the food, they bring back. They survive for us. Love survive for us. That time I learned this is real peace. Peace without love It's impossible. That's what I believe. Also, early 1970, everybody young, so you don't remember. You're not born yet. But those days, it was the hippie. They are concerned about the no more war, no more war. Those days, they used to call, they remember Hiroshima. So, no more Hiroshima. But they don't say, listen, I don't hear the no more Nagasaki. So I say, and no more Nagasaki. I have to say that. But those period, I don't know. What's going on now? What happened about those hippies? They're really concerned about the peace. What are you doing now? I said to myself, look at me. I'm the one only. No more war, no more war. But a lot of people say, you're crazy. It never happened. But I may be crazy. But less than 1% hope. I had a dream. That's a world peace. I do go all the way through. This photo I received by the Hiroshima mayor over 30 years ago. I beg, please donate. If you don't have too much money, I'll be happy to pay and pay to send me. But they did, they say, loan to me, which means if I don't use, I have to return. So I guarantee I'm gonna use. I had an opportunity, first time, early 1974. First opportunity in the United States, show this type picture was UCLA. 2 days. I went to UCLA. I stayed for all day long. I watched the students come in and out. Several girls. They're talking, and as soon as she went in, and run because they get scared. Look at all those, and a lot of dead body and skeleton. They got scared. I don't blame that. Then several students, I ask a question. What do you think about this? What do you think about the nuclear weapon? Those days, very intelligent students, they believe 100% we must keep the nuclear weapon. We must make a nuclear weapon more than other country. Seesaw game. This country made a 10. Oh, then we have to make a 12. Other countries say, oh, United States made a 12. We should make a 14. Seesaw game. And why? Because have to protect for our country. That's what the students say. So you use the word for protection. Is Uncle Sam 100% guarantee protection for you? I am American citizen too. I sure like to have opportunity. So how are you gonna get that guarantee protection? Students say, it's no guarantee. Well then, why? The country, a lot of American people say, how come you didn't escape then? We warned you. Why didn't you run away from city of the Hiroshima or Nagasaki? Believe me, we never heard that. It could be maybe government might heard information. But I don't think it's not just only Japan too. Any country, if the opposite side of the country, you better move. You think everybody obey and move to where? Where to move? It's no place to move. You like or not, you have to dedicate to the country. once you started, unfortunately, war or anything. When I came back this country to marry to my second generation husband, I asked my husband, honeymoon first day, please take me to the Disneyland, because I've never been to Disneyland. In the Disneyland, they had a 360-degree screen, which called Today's America or Introduced America.
IMAX.
We went there. On the screen, Minneapolis military officer school, student American to become officers, dedicate to the country. That's what they say. It's not just only Japan only, dedicate to the country. Dedicate to the country, this country too. That's what I tell the student, people. Once started the war, you like or not, you have to dedicate to the country as one of the citizens. That's what I believe. But meanwhile, we must stop, never happen again war. I think the people power is much more stronger than the politics. That's what Baba Chan said. I don't know too much politics, but that's what I believe. So, meanwhile, later I'll ask a question. But anybody, do you know Hiroshima? Do you know what day the bomb dropped there? Do you know?
August 6th,
Yeah, good one. What year?
1945.
Oh, I give it A. How about Nagasaki? Good, you're outstanding student today. How about do they have two same bomb or different bomb?
Different from Fat Man and Little Boy.
Nagasaki is just like a Baba-chan shape, fat. Plutonium. Hiroshima is a little boy. Uranium. Which one is strong? If this way has more tragedy, the Hiroshima, the city is kind of flat. Nagasaki is just like a banana shape. One side is a mountain, another side is the ocean. And they use the powerful one. But still, the boat died. It's about 250,000 people. Quite a few people say that our family is gonna die first because whole family become very critical sick. But my parents live long life. My younger brother still in the city of the Hiroshima, and this grandma still active. Do you know why? Those days didn't have anything to eat. But it's not a good to say, but the black market business, they do try to find anything. My father said, this time use the money. So no matter how expensive, black market come to order, get anything, buy it. So we got the food, everything. You had a protection. The sick, fight back some. Sometimes if you don't have any food, your physical is run down, you may not gonna recover. That's why I used to tell the young student, Mama always cook for children to build condition So don't ever say, I don't want this, I don't want that. You like or not, you have to eat and to become healthy. Teacher say, cause mama, please come every single day. They'll listen to you. But don't you think you have to eat the proper way food instead of junk food? That's how that we survive. But not just only black market food. People share. That's more powerful. Love is more powerful to survive life.
Thank you very much, Baba-chan. And let me introduce Mr. Brett Austin. Thank you.
Good afternoon and konnichiwa. My knowledge of Hiroshima, I was only 14 months old when the bomb was dropped. My knowledge comes from reading this book from cover to cover. There's one going around right now in the photographs that I've sent out. I'd like to make a quick comment about what Kaz sent. Even though Fat Boy was the plutonium bomb that was dropped in Nagasaki, it only destroyed 36%, according to this book. 21,000 tons of TNT was the equivalent. Now, Hiroshima was smaller, it was 15,000 tons, but it destroyed 96% of the city. And that's according to this document. So a lot more people died and a lot more people were impacted by that. And I think a lot of it's because it's by the ocean, lots of hills in Nagasaki, and we've also visited that. My knowledge comes from reading this book, talking to my father, the old Indian days where you passed history down from father to son, nothing written, reading the naval records about my father's ship and other ships in the Asiatic Pacific warfare, and reading his naval records after he passed away. So it's kind of, I appreciate being here today. One reason, I've had this in my jewelry box for 50 years. It was a nice Navy emblem. And then I found out a week ago when I was going to be here that this is a special one. It has my father's rank as lieutenant in the United States Navy, as captain of this LST 942. And on the bottom is a little ribbon, and this is the Asiatic Pacific, it's called a Battle Star. Battle Star were awarded to U.S. Navy ships that participated. This one was for the Asia Pacific battle and also for the liberation of the Philippines. Just some comments that I have learned getting ready to come here today. My father took a bunch of photographs. Some of them are going around right now, and the ones we'll show here today are a little less than what you'll see in there. My father was twice as old as Kaz, as a Navy officer, when the bomb was dropped. He was born in 1912. He went through the U.S. Navy Officers School in Fort Schuyler, New York, and he was 30 years old when the war broke out. So most people were 18 to 25, so he was a lot older than everybody else. His first ship was a sub-chaser, and he worked from Miami down to Argentina looking for German submarines. They may have gotten a submarine, they're not sure. They saw a lot of garbage come up, and they got 2 whales. That was their record for several years on the East Coast. Then in 1944, this ship right here, it's called an LST 942. It was commissioned with 2 destroyer engines. He became the captain of that. It was built in Massachusetts near Boston, sailed it through the Panama Canal and then into the South Pacific. Went to the Philippines, down to Australia, worked with the Third Army. This ship was 327 feet long. It's called an LST, which stands for Landing Ships Tanks. Or if you were on it, you called it a large, slow target. It would do like 11 knots compared to a destroyer that would do 30 knots. The good news was it had a very shallow draft, 327 feet long. It took 14 feet in the back and 8 feet in the front. And this was capable of going right up on shore, opening big doors in the bow, dropping a plank, and they could bring tanks right off, or trucks, or in one case he had 900 Australian soldiers on it. They traveled all over the South Pacific, island to island, was in Burma, and all over. I have all the ship's records for this ship. 103 enlisted soldiers and 7 officers on was the complement of the ship. And it went through the Panama Canal in October of 1944, correction, and it was scrapped about 1947. So it had a short life. So that's what the ship did. My father was assigned to the 7th Fleet, which was when the bomb was dropped about 600 miles away from Hiroshima. And he actually took some photographs I mentioned earlier of the bomb, and they were taken away from him later. The rest of the photographs he took from a schoolhouse in Hiroshima and did 360 panorama of the schoolhouse. Then he went up into what they call an L4 bird dog made by Piper Aircraft and took some more photos. So we might go ahead to the next shot. He was 34 when this happened. Kaz was 18, right? This is a photograph of a building that was built in 1915 by a Czech architect, and it was the Hiroshima Prefecture. Finally, it was called the Industrial Promotion Hall. It had a number of names, but it was a promotion or an exhibit hall. The building itself was about twice as big. It went all the way out to the side. So all that's left was this section that you see here. It's still there today. Behind it is the Oto River. So this was taken by my father in 1945. And it's the very back of that book is an actual photo that I kept that he actually took there with a tree. So these were his photos. These are taken from a schoolhouse, and you can see the complete devastation. I mean, it was just 6 inches of rubble everywhere. And these are all black and white photos. The photos in the album were reproduced for us by the museum in Hiroshima, and they have all the original negatives and the other photos. Go to the next one. Okay, this is interesting. There's a trolley car down here, and when I was in Japan just a few months ago, they put on a play where there were 369 women that ran the trolley cars, electric overhead trolley cars, and after the bomb, there only 39 survived. And so you can see, this is probably taken in about September or October. The trolley cars are back working, and there were like 39 women that survived it. And so you can still see the concrete towers and the concrete buildings, the ones that were concrete survived. There's some of the factory buildings in the back, and you can see people moving along the street here at this time. And go to the next one. This is the Oto River. It has lots of fingers that comes down from the mountains and goes into the Hiroshima Bay. And one of the big Navy bases that you see, there's a Japanese aircraft carrier that was sunk. Have photographs of some destroyers in that book and some other battleships that were sunk in Hiroshima Bay. And there was the Kure Naval Depot was one of the targets. It was a big Navy base. It was one of the biggest Navy bases in Japan in this area also. This is taken from the L4 bird dog, as was that one, flying over the city. And you just get a feel for the total devastation. This is an interesting photograph. You can see the strut from the L4 plane. Photograph the Oto River here. And that right there is the exhibit hall that's in the pictures that we see. That's the actual exhibit hall that Kaz has here.
Ground zero.
And was taken at the same time. They call the ground zero the hypo center. I didn't know that until a week ago when I read the book again. And the bomb went off at 580 meters above the earth, and it took 43 seconds to come down by parachute. I think that's the white spot she might have seen was the parachute. I'm guessing, but I'm not sure. But I'm thinking that's what it was. My guess is where the hypocenter was, looking at the photographs and studying this book that I have, it appeared to be right in this area about there. So the bomb exploded, almost 600 meters above the ground, and then wiped everything out in the whole area. So that you can see where the river splits and how the bridges survived to today. Okay. Oh, I forgot that one. Thank you. This is here's another one of the trolley cars. That's a fascinating picture taken from the L4 spotter plane. And I went on Google a couple days ago and I searched the Navy archives and I found a similar picture, except it was taken at ground level looking in rather than from an airplane. I didn't count those, but those are midget submarines. According to the Google shot, there's a different photograph taken about October of 1945. There are 84 of them. So I went and studied what the midget submarines were, and they all averaged about 78 feet long, 6 feet wide, had 2 torpedoes on each one. They were very advanced for the time. They weren't very successful because they couldn't dive very well. And they were between 2 and 5 men. But there's a whole bunch of them here that hadn't been used. And this is a Navy shipyard that was captured. So you can see the number that they were going to build. They even had 400-foot submarines back then, which is fantastic. This is a shot. My father's crew here. There's a Mitsubishi Zero, the M6 fighter plane in the back that was famous between 1938 and about 42. And it was destroyed. And there's another bomber here, the light twin-engine bomber that was destroyed. It's a young boy, maybe one of your friends. And then you can see how some of the pictures lasted and what he did here. This is my father's crew right here, some of the pictures there. Standing there. He was there even on Girls' Day. My wife identified...
right here is today's Hiroshima studio, baseball studio. Right
Oh, really?
there. Yeah,
Okay.
cup.
So it's good to get the history here, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, that's my father's, some of my father's crew here. And I have pictures also in the thing where you see girls dressed up, and that was about November 5th when they had Girls' Day. So we were able to identify some dates when he was there. Keep going. Anyway, we donated the photographs in 1999 to the Peace Museum, and they put up about a 25-foot long mural in the museum itself. And I was kind of proud because I just gave them something that they wanted to keep, and it was unique photographs that we have here in the air. That's the actual pictures here, and some of the students that were looking at it. So it was kind of neat to be able to do that. And they have a picture of my father and some of the things that he brought back. My father kept in touch with a number of the officers on the crew. My father died of lymphoma cancer 30 years after this bomb was dropped, and about 5 or 6 other people that he kept in contact also died of cancer. We tried to contact the Navy Department, and nobody knows anything. So it's history, it's gone. And my mother, who's gone now, and my father thought that this contributed to his passing away also. When you read this book, it talks about 350,000 people in Hiroshima at the time the bomb was dropped. And just after the bomb was dropped, they estimated that plus or minus 10,000, 140,000 were killed. But they don't know how many died because it took years for some of them to pass away. So just an example in there. And one more punch.
There.
That's a photograph of my dad at 34
handsome
years
boy.
old.
Handsome boy.
Thank you. Interesting sidebar. I have a friend that was a Hellcat fighter pilot. He's 82 right now, lives in Texas. He shot down the last Japanese plane in World War II. He loves Japan. He even had a Japanese girlfriend after the war. My father loved Japan. So it's interesting that you have people that actually fought over there on the American side and really like the country. Kind of what Kaz was saying earlier. Thank you, Fumiko.
Thank you very much, both of you. So we would like to have question and answer sessions. Is there anybody who would like to ask? All right, David.
What happened to the friend who was standing with you when you watched Mom come down?
We both jumped into the across street house. Well, she was pretty good between the two houses. The very narrow yard about this street. She went in. If there was a large street, the building collapsed. Then they go down. But it's so narrow. That's why she didn't have any scratch. She's still alive.
You had mentioned that when you saw some of the peace activists, they were yelling, no more Hiroshima. And it strikes me in reading and looking at some of this material as well that the Nagasaki bomb is often ignored in many cases or paid less attention to. And I had also seen that you were the president of the American Society of Atomic
Don't
Bomb
call president, call mama.
Okay. Well, I'm just quoting here.
No, mama is better
And
than.
so my question is there a feeling among Nagasaki bomb survivors maybe of being overlooked or maybe not given as much attention?
No. About the percentage, Hiroshima Hibakusha who live in this country, maybe 10. Nagasaki is 1. Among the 10 is none, only 1. The reason, Hiroshima prefecture, years ago, immigrant prefecture. So the ancient is already in this country years ago. So second generation, third generation. So born in United States, before the war, went to Japan, then become hibakusha. Nagasaki was not immigrant country. So most Nagasaki hibakusha married to Navy soldier because Sasebo, right by the Nagasaki. So after the war, the American soldier, Japanese girl met each other. I love you. Then married to him and come here. So I want you to understand, husband is an American soldier. Wife is hibakusha. It's a very delicate. It's difficult to speak in front of public.
I'd like to make a comment on that one too, just as a footnote for you. On NHK the other day, they had a session talking about Nagasaki, and they had Prime Minister Abe on, and he said they were doing that, so they still recognize it. I think two things. Number one, Hiroshima was first.
That's
So I always remember who's number one. And according to this book, 96% of Hiroshima was destroyed, and only 36% of Nagasaki was, and maybe that's some possibility, I don't know.
He's right. That's why American people only, they know Hiroshima. That's why. And Nagasaki, I say.
You told me off camera that your father hadn't been told about the radiation hazards following the blast, and their visits through the city then were in no way monitored.
I don't think they had a clue. I don't know if anybody was monitoring it or not, but they didn't have a clue. They read about it years later.
Okay.
Probably like Agent Orange in Vietnam, the same thing, that type of situation.
Right. Kaz, you obviously went from naivete about the bomb to the colors and the black. What was it like for you to develop an understanding of what had actually happened? I mean, how did the people of the city come to understand that this was a special weapon? Can you describe that?
Well, beginning was nobody didn't know. They thought, panic. Because as you know, the first in the history, the new type bomb, only the gasoline. They said that maybe this type bomb is a very unusual, special bomb. We found out there's only one bomb. We thought there was so many beginning. Then they say this bomb, it will be 70 years. No human being gonna stay in the city of the Hiroshima because he cannot be survived. That's what they say. That's all we got the information. But my father, lying down on the ground every day, he become a 3rd-degree burn. He look at the ground every day, and grass start growing. My father said, we could live. That's what he said.
You said that you saw a bright flash. Was that a direct view, or was the bomb by that time out of sight behind a building?
If I has maybe more than couple seconds, if I watch, then I may lose my eyesight. I did it immediately, 1 second. It could be help for my eye. But I had after that a radiation sick, but then nobody didn't know that was the radiation sick. Start having the blood from my gum, and I hate to use, but the number 1, number 2, all the blood. I thought I had a diarrhea or something. But I only could say, this my teeth, no cavity for guarantee. Ever since 30 years old, I had a new guaranteed teeth.
It's really more an observation of a theme in your narrative, Kaz. I was struck by the paradoxes and the contradictions that seem to run throughout. How the bomb, a weapon of war, led to the escalation of the end of the war. How that beautiful B-29 turned from an angelic image to a hellacious one. How a natural response, among most would be to hate your enemy, but that you were taught by your parents to love all people. How it was a day of war that taught you the real meaning of peace. How the dropping of the atomic bomb in many ways equalized armament building throughout the world, and yet has led us down that same path that those two bright UCLA students didn't quite get at that moment, a continued development and escalation of building weapons of mass destruction. I don't really have a particular question, but that was something that really impressed me about your narrative. And I'm trying to formulate a question. I think it rests with those two students at UCLA and maybe within all of us who have a difficult time understanding how to promote disarmament and how to move away from constructing weapons of mass destruction and toward a better and more loving way. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that paradox, that contradiction, that yin and yang, so to speak.
Now, I myself, a very lucky person, I'm grateful that my late father and mother, they never teach to hate people. They always say to love. And also people is not perfect. Everybody make mistake. And they always say, we had a word. If you something question, talk to people. Sometimes the language is different, but the feeling. Believe me, I started, when I came to this country, I only knew yes, no, don't touch me, shut up. That's all I started. But at least I could feel people. We feel each other. Then somebody might interpret. Then try to talk over. I tell the student, instead use this. Open your hand, hold hand each other, say I love you, and talk each other. Then that's it. Then happy end. That's me. Instead of bang, start war, bang.
As I understand history, the U.S. was already firebombing Tokyo before we dropped the atomic bombs. How did you come to terms with that going on? As when you wanted to have a philosophy of love, how did you deal with that? How did you make sense of that?
The lot it's not just only hibakusha, only victim. All kind. My late husband, born in this country, when the war started, he was a university student. They forced to send to the relocation camp. They call concentration camp. American too, they are victim. It's not just only us only. Please, I'm not real happy to say I'm hibakusha. I wish I'm not hibakusha. The reason why I have to speak up in front of public never happen again. I'm always cool, but only thing, after the bomb dropped, about 4, 5 years old, 6 years old student, about 25 students, with the one young lady teacher, tried to escape. And our house used to have a big property. They came and teacher said, I'm very tired, so let's sit down over here for a while. Try to escape to later on the countryside. Meanwhile, they couldn't escape anymore. Little children. Somehow, those days, if you see the photo or everything, magazine, or the injured people, you don't see angry face or anything. It's just like numb. I never heard crying, never yelling, nothing those days, except this 24, 5 student for maybe 5, 6 years old student. They call, Mommy, Mommy. I still could hear that voice. Then teacher said, be patient. Mommy gonna come after you. The next day morning, include the teacher, they're all innocent children. They die. This is the war. What's good about the war? To me, nothing but stupid game. That's what I believe. I cannot be emotional, but these children, the wonderful life, people destroyed. Remember that. War is people started. This mama had to protect for young generation. I hope that the UCLA student now, distinguished gentleman, father, maybe some become grandpa. I think they remember. Yes, some cars, the Hibakusha came and said something. I think he remember in here. I don't think he's not happy to, whoa. I don't think so. Look at his father, died cancer. Sure, everybody dies sooner or later.
But he was
But-
only 66.
Yeah,
Yeah, his grandfather lived to 106.
Yeah.
So
young, the life started the beginning. If his father is alive, he and I could be good partner. I sure miss, I never met him, but I sure miss him.
How do you feel about this educational project? Do you feel hopeful about it? Do you think it's going well? Again, I read in here in one of these articles that one of the filmmakers, asked some young Japanese people what happened on August 6th, and they didn't know, which is true in America too. But I was just wondering, what are your feelings on this process of educating people about this?
Almost every single year, I do go back to Japan. And so my volunteer work, I have a Hibakusha's organization group, and I'm mama. So each year, I try to go back to Japan, and the Japanese government and medical association and the other people, they support for us, send to the doctor from Japan, and to give a examination every other year. This year was 30th anniversary. Every other year, so started in 1977. So some died. Those days, the welfare minister died too. Quite a few important people died, but each time when I go and visit, I remember, thank you. That's all I do. But same time, I do visit Memorial Park, museum. Sometimes I speak to Japanese students when they visit the city of the Hiroshima. Same Hibakusha, but I'm original from America, so they are concerned about. Students, they're very concerned about the world peace. I'm very grateful. This year, at the Memorial Park service in the Little Tokyo Japanese town, I read the message from Hiroshima elementary school student, 6th grade. Among the message, I'm the one told for over 30 years, talking. We have a word. Instead of started, talk over. This student promise, we're gonna talk. People make mistake. We talk and straight out and try to keep the world peace. So student, they learn.
I would have a comment. I think the education process is really outstanding, but until I had gone to the museum, I really didn't realize the impact. I mean, my wife got sick, I was hanging in there, and these pictures really don't depict what you really see there. But what scares me thinking about it and looking back and being here today is when I was a young boy, the Russians and Americans had 200 megaton bombs, 10 to 15 times more powerful. And if you think it wiped out 6 kilometers in every direction, this is really scary. And now we're talking about the rest of the world with other comments. I just have one quickie comment on your comment, and it's an observation I've made. I don't have any brilliant statement, but when you look at museums around the world, natural history museums, what do you see? You go in there and you see clubs that the men used as weapons, arrows, spears, guns, rocks, clubs. And what do you see for the women? You see the cooking pots, the houses, and to me, that's just my whole life. That's what I've always seen. So I think that's part of our problem.
I have a question to Kazumama-san. So I see Japan as really getting conservative in some points, and some people try to change the Article 9, that is a peace constitution, peace article of the Constitution. I would like to have some comments from you. What do you think about this movement in Japan?
You know, I'm a simple Kazumama and grandma. I'm not a politician. So any politics involved, it's difficult for me to answer. But as a mama and grandma, who wants to have a war? Who like that? I myself want to know, and the reason why. So change the rule. I don't know. Maybe somebody, they like to have some kind of credit or something. I don't think it's not for volunteer or minus. Some kind of plus for them, not for everybody. How dare, Mama said, how dare, don't be selfish. My father was a third-degree burn. Third-degree burn was like this. The scar was about this thick. Then later they call keloid. Keloid. That's the burn. All like this. My father's whole body was like that. But he has a very good sense of humor. Thank you. In the summertime, he had a short pants. So showed all the arm and whole body, except the back is okay because this side is all injured. He was a young retirement and he liked to have a children. Called all the neighborhood children. He said, today is a world geography study. And he said, oh, there's a big shoulder. That part is Russia. This side, big one, America. And the banana shape. That's Japan. And this side, he had a tiny one, booth shape. That's Italy. He called that. He used his keloid for joking. But he never complained. Look at this, America did it. He never said that. But he always say, when the children start fighting, huh? All the children stop.
And I would like to thank for coming over and give us the presentation. This is our certificate of appreciation, signed by Karima, who is our Dean of Humanities and Languages. And also Brett.
I could come back every year.
Please.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate that.
much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.